Tonight's guest is the Kingdom Earl Marshal of Caid, Master Oliver Dogberry. And featuring a live performance by Baroness Nezhka Orshinaia, the Kingdom of Atlantia's Bardic General. And me, I'm your announcer, Master Bjorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes McBride.
Good evening, everyone. Can you feel the excitement in the air? That's right. Bardic War started this past weekend, and we're going to have a couple of special features tonight, just giving updates on what's going on this very exciting, entertaining, and enthralling adventure that's happening completely online. So before we get to some of our special features about Bardic War, just a few announcements about that word doesn't make sense. Caid-centric events that are coming up. Well, first off, just for those that are watching, that Monday, June 7th, we're going to have a special episode with their Majesties of Caid, along with Princes by the Seneschal and Exchequer for the Kingdom, to talk about the reopening and the path forward in the events that are coming up. So be sure to join us on Monday, June 7th for that information. And then talking about events that are coming up on Saturday, July 10th is the plan for coronation in the Barony of Wintermist. On Sunday, July 18th in the Barony of Altavia, is the Queen's Champion for ranged weapons. And then July 24th is Queen's Champion Marshallete for in the Barony of Gildenholt. In addition, virtual Potreros coming up with 100% less fire ants. So hey, there's something to look forward to. And I think that's pretty much what I have lined up. Let's go ahead and bring Bjorn here so we can get to the Bardic War stuff. And he's going to be here, all right, about now. Hey, Bjorn.
Hello.
How are you doing?
You're
here.
What a complicated question. I am, in fact, here, and am glad to be here, I have to say.
Okay, well, we are chock full of information and stuff today, so so let's go ahead and get started and talk about Bardic War. Oh man, it gets me every time. So
a good solid feeling.
I know. I'm very excited about it. So before we get too much further along, let's go ahead and show what the results are, because you can. They're keeping track online of what happened this past weekend. Opening ceremonies were this past weekend, along with several war point events. So let's go ahead and see what we have going on. It's all online, so here we go. So if you look on Saturday, they had instrumental only, which I guess is with instruments, and they don't know who won. So Renaissance Theater and Improv happened, and oh my gosh, look at that. The Eastern Alliance pulled both of those war points. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think that they did a really good job. They brought a lot of great performers. I understand that Atlantia, Trimaris, the East, they all did great jobs. And I'm just happy that that we kind of are trading back and forth with the Mid-Realm on these other points. So I'm happy with that.
All right. And then on Sunday, the categories were original poetry, non-European performance, storytelling, and foolery, which I'm not surprised the Mid-Realm won something called foolery. Right? No?
I'm not saying anything.
So it looks like a lot of events going on throughout this week. Also, the war continues and wraps up this following weekend.
Indeed.
Now, we were talking about last week about the game show we're running on behalf of Bardic War. We ran into some unforeseen challenges that did not happen this past Saturday. We are confirmed for this Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern to run, what's it called? What is it? Now, be sure to look out for information, a link. We will be streaming it both here on Live from Caid and on our Facebook and YouTube channels, along with on the Bardic War website. You know, Bjorn, speaking of Bardic War, this is such a big event. I think it's the opportunity to bring in a correspondent just to talk about what's going on in Bardic War. Now,
Right you are, Laertes. Right you are.
So let's toss to our correspondent and see what she has as an update on what's going on Bardic War. And here we go. Let's see. I'm curious.
Greetings, Laertes, and thank you. Countess Batista here, and I am reporting live from Caid. I'm here covering the first ever Bardic War. Now, this is the first war of its kind. There are representatives here from all over the known world, all competing for that much coveted Bardic war point. So everyone's starting to gather, as you can see behind me. It's you know what, Laertes, let me get back to you. This is Batista, live from Caid. Are we sure we have the right address?
I thought I was pretty clear that it was a virtual event.
Nobody gets to a site faster than Batista.
That's true. Well, you know, we have a couple of more updates coming up later on in the show. I'm sure a little bit more on point, but she's on the scene.
Look, as long as there's an HOV lane going somewhere, I'm sure she will get there in time.
Great. So what do you have for us on the Arts and Science website?
Well, because of all of the wonderful Bardic War things that we are doing during the course of the show, I'm instead just going to have one website that we're going to talk about. Before we begin, for those of you that might have noticed that maybe I don't seem to be my usual cherubic, cheerful self, it is because the day after last week's show, rather, I went in for surgery. And while that in and of itself is not unusual nowadays, it did used to be. And to that end, the website that I wanted to bring up was from rasmussen.edu, and it is called This Won't Hurt a Bit, A Bloody and Painful History of Surgery. Now, it has YouTube videos embedded, plus it has a series of hyperlinks to talk about everything from the trepanning to relieve pressure from skull fractures done during Neolithic times, all the way through to the way that instruments were sterilized during the Greek and Roman times by having them in wine, all the way to using things such as turpentine and vinegar. But because of the beliefs at the time, you really weren't given a lot to deaden the pain, because they felt that the patient needed to be awake and present for any surgeries that took place. And it goes into a great deal of depth and detail about what the Egyptians did, what people of the Indian subcontinent did, what was done in the Asiatic continents. And it just goes into a lot of detail with a lot of hyperlinks and things for you to go into before talking about basically the creation of what is considered modern surgery, which is post-period. It's around 1650 to 1700 when they started taking things a little bit more seriously and talking about actually, hey, why don't we look at the bodies first before we crack them open? Now, I bring this up because how many of us would still be alive based upon what rudimentary surgical or medical procedures existed in time? If we didn't have a barber surgeon, or you didn't have a midwife or something of that nature, how many of us would be alive right now? Just let me just take you for, in my own personal existence, I might not even have made it, because I was a month premature. I was already 24 inches long at birth. This is true. And my mother barely makes 5 foot tall, just barely. So one of us or both of us might not have made it. And if that's the case, then my 5 brothers and sisters probably wouldn't have either. Also, I had German measles when I was a child. Would I have survived? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Plus all of the various things, the injuries, all the stuff that goes through the usual process of growing up or being engaged in sports or other activities like that. Who's to say that I would even have made it to 50 or 40, 30? Who knows? I bring this up not because I want to talk about our own mortality. We've had plenty of that this last 15 months, but more just to talk about the wonders and all of the things that we have done since then and what the modern Middle Ages are as opposed to just recreation. We are a creative anachronism and we do that on purpose. We do that because we like having sanitation. We like having, culinary grade health cards and those sorts of things. So while it is great to go to a primitive site, you're still going to have porta potties. You're still going to have some kind of cleanliness situation going on. And that's going to be even more so in this upcoming fall and early winter when we have Great Western War, Gulf Wars, Estrella, and all those other things that are going to be coming in as we start going back to some semblance of normalcy. So, for example, right now, I don't have pneumonia. I only know this because they showed me that I don't have pneumonia, but to make sure I don't have pneumonia, they gave me a cool little toy. It looks like a toy, but it's something that everybody can play with. And it basically looks like this. You breathe in and out of this machine, and it supposedly keeps you going strong. So, isn't this cool? I mean, look at how neat this is. It looks like a toy, and yet what it is it basically allows all of the fluids that might be in my lungs to not be in my lungs by causing them to expectorate out. But they didn't even know what that was 500 years ago, let alone 1,000 years ago. So what I want you to do is make certain that you take care of yourselves. Yes, the mask mandates for the CDC have been removed. Yes, there's a bunch of other things that have happened, but you still need to be cautious. You still need to make sure to look after yourself, look after your family, look after your loved ones, because just because you have gotten your second shot like I did, and like many of us have, that doesn't mean that you don't need to continue to be vigilant. So hopefully, being in this virtual Bardic War where not a shot has been fired, although from what I've seen of the points, the Eastern Atlantean Alliance certainly has cleared the decks a couple times with grape shot. Everyone seems to be still fine. So let's keep it that way. Take care of yourselves. Still wear a mask if you want to, and don't feel like you're being bullied. And if someone tries to bully you, well, just, don't pay him any mind. This is about your health and your comfort. So make sure you take care of yourselves. And that's the one website for this week.
Well, we could have used that device on what is it, but you've told everyone what it is now. So,
my mistake. Sorry about that.
I see. I have a notification here that Countess Batista has another update for us.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what this one is. Here we go.
So thanks, Laertes. This is Countess Batista here, once again reporting live from Caid. Now, I'm here reporting on the first Bardic War, and as you can see, I think I've finally found the Bardic War. This place is really, there's just a ton of people here. I'm very excited. I'm sure they're all really excited to be here. So I'm going to go talk to a few of them and get their impressions on this first Bardic War. All right, let's interview a few people. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you here today for the first ever Caid Bardic War?
No, I'm here for tennis today.
Oh, okay. Well, do you know what a Bardic War is? Have you ever...
I've seen people rehearsing with the swords and the armor and all the English accoutrements.
And what's your accent?
I'm English.
So there you go. She knows what a bard is if she's English. So, all right. Well, we're going to try and find some performers. Thank you so much. So here's another person that looks like they're here for Bardic War, obviously. Excuse me, miss. My lady. my lady. Hi, yeah, are you guys here today for the Bardic War? For the,
I don't know what that is.
no?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't know what a Bardic
Is this going live?
Do you know how to sing?
No, I can't sing.
Do you sing? Do any of you
she
sing?
sings so good, bro. In the shower.
Oh, do you know any stories?
Stories? Like
Yeah. Well, like in the old days when the bards used to get together and tell stories. Do you know any good stories?
not,
Do
actually.
you know any riddles, any limericks?
What's black and white and red all over?
What is black and white?
Newspaper.
Perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for. Yeah, you excel at Bardic. Congratulations. Thank you. Hello, my lady. Right over here. Oh, are you guys here today for the Bardic competition?
What's that?
So Bardic, there's singing, there's dancing, there's poetry, all sorts of things.
No.
You're not here for that? Oh, okay. Well, are you just having a nice romantic Chick-fil-A lunch? Yeah? Awesome. All right. Well, you know what? If you tune into the bards will sing you a love song, get the romance going. What do you think about something like that?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you've been great. Thank you. We'll see if we can find some actual performers. Maybe we'll send somebody to your table.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Well, lady, we'd like to. Do you have a second to Hello. All right, well, she's so excited about the Bardic competition that we can't even pull her away from what she's doing. So this has been Countess Batista, looking once again for the first Bardic War. I still haven't found it, but I have found lots of people that are very excited about going to the Bardic War competition known world. Oh, God. Okay, wait. This has been Batista. Back to you, Laertes.
Okay, well, that's we're getting those updates in, folks.
You know, I
enjoying
just
your Bardic
right
War.
now that I really appreciate that that there are all those 5 and 6-year-old children that Batista can look up to.
Man, I feel like I'm there at Bardic War right now. I really do.
I never knew reporting like that was possible.
I know. Well, you know, and we're lucky because there's even more updates coming throughout the rest of the episode. So
I'm so excited.
I know. So you know, we got to get to business first, though. So who do we have coming up next, Bjorn?
We have the Earl Marshal for the Kingdom of Caid. Master Oliver Dogberry is going to be joining us.
All right. Well, let's get to him because we have some important information. So in the Kingdom, Earl Marshal will be here right about now. Hello, Master Oliver.
Good evening. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm just excited about what's going on at Bardic War. So
there's a lot of good updates going on there.
I know.
She says found her niche.
I know. You know, when I think I needed an on-location correspondent, of course we turn to Her Excellency. Now, the kingdom is getting ready to reopen here on June 1st. And I know there's been a lot of work done by your office to get us ready and to talk about how, when it comes to the marshallete-related activities, how things are going to open up. So I appreciate you coming onto the show this evening to kind of give us an update on how things are going to work and what lies ahead. So can you just kind of, I know you put a missive out, I think over the weekend or on Friday, kind of talking about what's going to go forward. So can you just kind of give us a heads up?
Yes, I posted to the Kingdom website last week. Basically, it was a summary of what we're going to be doing. First off, I want to say that we will follow all federal, state, and local guidelines before even the society or the Kingdom guidelines and rule sets come in for us to open and do things. I will talk specifically to the marshallete activities. I will leave the more general activities for the rest of it for your guests next week. I believe you have them come in. The practices, just to be aware that the practices, once all those guidelines and all those steps are taken care of, will be open and could close depending on any changes that come out if we have a change in the local restrictions or what is open at any given time. There's a 150 person maximum that's been set down. That does not affect most of our practices, although we do have the practice down in Calafia, which is very large, the brigade practice down there, which we have the armored and the rapier, and that can actually get up to that limit. We'll have digital sign-ins that we keep track of everybody at the practice so we can know what's going on. You must wear a mask at all times that covers your mouth and your nose. This includes while you're fighting, which is a requirement that has we ENBB the best way of doing things. You can remove the mask if you are socially distanced to eat or drink. And if you need to remove it longer than that, you can go ahead and leave the practice site and come back when you can't need to. The loaner gear is a single use only. Any armor that you have, or any masks, gorgets, gloves of that nature, as a single use person only per practice. They've got to be sanitized in between. Weapons and defensive weaponry, such as shields, if they are wiped down and cleansed between uses at a given practice, can be switched off. And the territorial marshals are the ones that are in charge of the practice. They will be enforcing these rules as we go forward. We got to maintain to be safe. And even though while society has allowed us to reopen, we need to be vigilant. My job primarily, the bottom line, my job is to make sure of the safety of anyone practicing the marshallete activities. And while we're doing our best, everybody needs to make a decision for themselves what their safety levels are at. Even though we are reopening, if you don't feel safe coming out to a practice, then you should not at that point. It's your own responsibility to decide what's best for you. And also understand that while there may be people at practices, they may limit who or how much they interact at that practice as we slowly reintegrate back into society as well as our practices. We need to make sure that people are given a chance to go at their own pace.
Okay, so just a couple of questions before we move on from this section. So digital sign-ins, that's got to be for everyone that shows up for a local official practice, right? So right. Is the local seneschal doing that, or the local marshal?
Yes, Sir Tiberius, our kingdom seneschal, is the one that is doing the digital sign-in. It's not something that I have a hand in myself. It's just something that they are preparing for, and I'm assuming that if it's not ready by the time we start up, we'll have other methodologies such as paper and pen to get us past this point. But everybody needs to come in, give their information. That's a requirement that's set forth for us, and it will be so that we can know who all's there, we can do the count accurately, and we can alert anybody if there is any positivity cases that come out from COVID that we need to let everybody else know.
Right. So it's basically a way to say, if you were at this practice, by the way, someone has been diagnosed with COVID, heads up, you may have been exposed. So that's really what the digital sign up for, is what it sounds like. Okay. And when it comes to wearing masks, that's just not for armored and rapier. It's true for any of the forms that your office oversees. Is that correct?
Correct. Everything from thrown weapons to archery to equestrian, everybody must be wearing masks at an official SCA practice of whatever martial form it is. And okay. I will go on to say that at events, the restrictions or requirements that we have, I got noise outside the house, are still in play. There will be additional requirements for events that will be covered by the rest of the kingdom that go beyond the martial forms.
So speaking of events, speaking of practices, and this may fall into the seneschal bucket, but I just want to see, we'll be fighting, and interested parties will walk by and want to talk, right? And watch the fighting and stuff. Do we have to set up any type of control or any kind of barrier for where our practice is to try to keep it from people that are interested in coming by and talking to us that wouldn't be signing in anyway because they're not part of the practice?
Yeah, well, I'm still talking with the Kingdom Seneschal, because we are trying to figure that out. The best thing to do I have right now is I'll be telling the local people to please ask people to maintain their social distance and wear a mask when approaching our people. There are different practice sites have different setups, and trying to close out completely can interrupt a flow of traffic that we can't keep going forward with. So.
Right. Well, you should just get people to make sure they bring a marshalling staff, and you just put it between you and the person you're talking to. I'm sure that would be very welcoming.
That would be, yeah, we get some lightweight PVC marshalling staffs for those purposes.
By the way, in case you haven't learned, you don't listen to me. And then my other question, when it comes to loaner gear. So I, as a person that's using the loaner, can use it repeatedly myself through the night, but when I'm done and hand it back, it needs to be disinfected before either it goes away for the evening or before someone else of that practice can use it. Is that basically what it is?
That is basically what it is. But the only people that anything that touches you personally, such as a gorget, the mask, anything that is armor, is a single use per practice. So if you use a mask and a gorget, it's you are the only one that can do that practice. If you have a weapon or a shield, those can be disinfected and be reused by others. It's a contact more than anything else, and we're trying to make the best of what we can, walk the path through all the regulations.
Of course. And, just for those that aren't familiar, you and the Seneschal and the kingdom at large, their majesties, are trying to, thread that needle of national, state, local, SCA requirements for all of this to make sure we can safely start back up in a couple of weeks. And it's a changing environment too. I mean, just like we saw last week, the CDC gave a different set of requirements, but that's national, but the state of California says we're still going through June 15th, et cetera. So it really is, I would think it would be important to keep an eye on the Kingdom Facebook and the Kingdom webpage for any type of changes or modifications that come to this guidance throughout this process, right?
Correct. And I'm sure that'll be reiterated when you bring on the Kingdom Seneschal and the Majesties on your next show. But yes, this is a ever-changing influx situation that can change literally daily sometimes for us. If you get an outbreak in Orange County, then it may go back to a different tier that does not allow gatherings outside.
Right.
And so check the Kingdom as well as the local websites for whichever practice you're going to or event.
All right. Now, a question did come up. Since this guidance is from your office in the Marshallete, for the wipes and disinfectant materials, is that cost being borne by the local area Marshallete? Is it coming from Kingdom, or is there a plan on that yet?
I haven't gotten a plan for that yet. I need to go back and check. Probably talk with the local Seneschals to see if there's something that they can provide, because it goes beyond just the practices. We'll need that for events as well. So what will probably happen is we will have the local territories bear the brunt of that cost locally. What I would suggest is some wipes and a bottle of rubbing alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol is probably the best. You can get a spray bottle and a bottle of rubbing alcohol at the 99-cent store and spend $2 for the bottle and the spray, and that will cover a multitude of sins, and it's probably the best. The problem is putting alcohol on some leather parts is not as good as putting a wipe. So for gloves and any leather parts, you may want to be careful how you spray that in.
Right. Spending 99 cents on a bottle of alcohol is what I did all through college, actually.
And I can tell.
You know. And then, so, and this may fall under the larger guidance from the Seneschal. One last question, I want to move on. But for the mask types you need to wear while you're fighting, is there a specification for the categories they need to be? Is that something that you've done, or is that really a more Seneschal type of guidance?
It's more of a Seneschal. It would be what is we come down from the CDC and the state guidelines for the masks, you know, multi-layer cloth masks, or the N95, I think it is.
Yeah.
Masks are the best. Now, this does bring up another issue, is that for fighters who, even equestrian people or thrown weapons people, if you haven't done your marshallete activity with the mask on, you need to, when you come in to fight, take it easy. Take it slow. Take a longer break. See how you're doing. Don't want you to pass out.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so let's move on from there. I don't see really any new questions. I just see me being admonished, like a regular show. So now let's talk about authorization. So we shut down in March of 2020. And I'm sure there are plenty of people whose authorizations have expired in that window until June of this year, when they will start having an opportunity, because you can't do reauthorize unless you're at an official event or practice. So what is the plan for your office for these people whose authorizations expired in that window between we've been shut down?
So I came up with a solution for that in part. I talked with Sir Tiberius, the Kingdom Seneschal, and their Majesties for my guidance, and they agreed with me. What I plan to do, and what I am in the process of doing, is anyone whose fighter or marshallete cards expired during the entirety of 2020 or 2021 through now till we open, I'm going to go through and update. I will do a one-time variance to allow their expiration date to be pushed into the December 2nd is what I decided upon of this year. So your authorization will continue to be valid until December 2nd of 2021, so that people don't have a rush and crush to get back in, and they will be valid. The other side of that is that during this grace period between the time we open and the end of the year, it would behoove everyone to go and get a complete reauthorization so that they can be extended 3 years, 4 years out from this point. I am also working with my deputies, my kingdom deputies, about getting senior marshals reauthorized at this point. I can do that. We are experimenting with Zoom calls for reauths for senior marshals. I've started with armored. I'm going to then expand that out to the other disciplines, and so that they are valid. So we have our senior marshals, our authorizing marshals, to be able to authorize people going forward. I also point out that marshals, senior or otherwise, full marshals, need to have a valid SCA membership that is current for the time that they're doing marshallete activities. If your SCA membership has lapsed, you are not at this point a valid marshal.
Right, but that's not new. That's been the rules forever.
Yeah, it's just that we've got this hiccup, and so I just wanted to reiterate something to make people, hey, you need to do this.
So, okay, so now, so you've spoken about people whose authorizations have expired during the shutdown time.
Yes.
Now, I want to do a hypothetical, just a strictly hypothetical case, and see how you would handle it. So, hypothetically, let's say someone who was like a senior marshal in a couple of forms, and maybe one-time Earl Marshal, and maybe even one-time Society Rapier Marshal, whose authorization expired maybe even in 2019, and he never noticed. And maybe even some events he went to, it was not pointed out, but not at the fault of those people running the list. So the authorization actually, hypothetically, that person wasn't even an authorized marshal or fighter because it had expired prior to March of 2020. What would you do on that?
Well, I'm limited to the time that we had a COVID problem. Anybody whose authorizations expired before then, the onus is on them and the individual to make sure that their cards and everything is up to date. So you will have to go through, or that person, that hypothetical person, would have to go through if it's rapier specifically, they have to do their rapier authorization, and then they'd have to do their marshallete authorization after that. You have to be a valid fighter in order to become a senior marshal.
Right. So I will pass that along to my hypothetical friend with that information. But I mean, and it goes with that guidelines that in the eyes of the marshallete, it's agnostic. It's not title related, experience related. Everyone follows the same rules and are subject to the same rules regardless. So
no matter how good a friend they might think they are to me, they still have to follow the rules.
Yeah, hypothetically. Okay, so one last thing, I'm going to turn it over to Bjorn because we are our bards waiting patiently on the East Coast, and we have those updates for Bardic War we got to get to. Okay, so they've been talking about for sign-in, it's pre-registered, right? And electronic at gate when you show up, right? Blah, 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 blah. Has there been discussion about, since you're pre-registering for an event, would you pre-register to fight? And at the table, are the list persons expected to do list or anything paperless too? Have y'all talked about that?
Have not gotten that far yet. I need to circle back with the COVID committee as well as Sir Tiberius and determine how it's going to be. The whole electronic check-in thing is not something that I'm part of.
Right.
So, but I can see where if everybody's pre-regged, then we should have perhaps an option to say, yes, I want to fight in these lists, and here's my fighter card information. That would be a useful part of that, but we have not actually gotten that far.
Okay. Well, our first fighting event, I understand, is not till Queen's Champion in the middle of July. So there's some time to figure all this out. And again, all this may change by then. So yeah. All this
Hopefully
work
for the better.
All right. So speaking of punting, I'm going to step out and let Bjorn ask any questions that may be left. And I'm going to go talk to my hypothetical friend.
Thank you so much again for joining us this evening. One of the questions that has been brought to my attention is about loaner gear. Now, who will be responsible for keeping the loaner gear for each respective geographical entity, Calafia, Gildenhold, etc., sanitized and safe and available, or are we just kind of not utilizing loaner gear until we have maybe the pandemic a little more in hand?
So I will be sending an email out to the territorial marshals, which should include all, there should be a territorial marshal for every geopolitical place that has a practice, and inform them that this is something that they need to be able to figure out on their own, and give them several options. One is spend a couple of bucks at the 99-cent store to get yourself a spray bottle and some rubbing alcohol to do the cleansing between, or decide that it is too much trouble at this time for your various forms to be able to utilize loaner gear, and you may decide in the short term to not have loaner gear available, and that can change partway through. You can start out with no loaner gear and then move to where you can get it once you get more information. They should have the ability to go through their local seneschals to request funds for sanitation and such.
I bring it up. It was actually two separate questions were brought to my attention this last week. And I confess it took me a little bit of time to get to them. But the one that was for heavy fighting, it was more about fluid transmission, sweating on stuff, and having masks that could be, disposable, and then that you will wear under the loner helm. So that was more of a, what do I do for me personally? And then the question that was asked about rapier fighting was, because of the mesh in a loner helm and a loner rapier helm, that seems to be more challenging to disinfect because of all of the kinks and nooks and crannies in a 12-kilogram mask face. And so they were saying, well, what about like a dip procedure where but that seems like an awful lot of flammable liquid that you would just have in a vat somewhere and then just dunk the front of fencing masks in. And I'm not entirely certain, especially if this is on public property or if this is at a park, where exactly you're going to dispose of that. But I said I would ask. And so I have done so, because I was like, gee, dunking helms in a vat of alcohol. I'm not really certain if that's a great idea, but I bet Oliver will know. So,
and this is where I'll go back to the rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. If it's on mist, you can use that on the inside of the mask and then on the outside of the mask. It will cover virtually the entire mesh from both sides in a mist form, which should be enough to do what's necessary. You could do the same thing with a bottle of Lysol or something of that nature, but the rubbing alcohol is just as effective-ish for what we need and a lot cheaper.
True there. Very true there. And, some of the irritations that could come into contact, although especially if you're wearing your coif, you're wearing the things that you need to wear as a rapier fighter, your skin may not necessarily come into contact with rubbing alcohol, isopropyl, or a Lysol, or anything like that to begin with, or it shouldn't. So there is that.
And what I would suggest is that the equipment, the loner gear that's used by one person at the end of the practice is when it should be disinfected and then put away. This gives it the maximum effectiveness of being able to get rid of whatever's there, plus the time. The COVID does not necessarily live past a certain amount of days, but by the time it comes back into use for the next practice, it should be no need to disinfect it at that point if it's been disinfected beforehand.
So in talking with some other people in other kingdoms, we are to understand that the way things work at society versus kingdom is there is a set of rules, and then you can make things more strict than you can at the society, but you cannot make things more lax as they are at the society. But one of the things that was brought to my attention that some kingdoms, particularly in the mid and the southeast portions of the 48 lower states, if you will, was talking about trying to petition the society level to talk about proof of vaccination, because there are some folks who think that is a privacy issue, and then there are those that are like, but the greater good. And so you have two distinct things going on. And I do believe that there are some kingdoms who are going to try and shoot for a, if you don't have vaccination, then, wait until you do before you come back. But that does seem to kind of fly in the face of the personal freedoms that we try to espouse. Speaking as the Earl Marshal for a kingdom, what do you think is the best path to choose, whether it's a freedom issue or a...
So that's a multifaceted question.
That's why Laertes lets me ask them after he's buttered you up. That's how that...
So to start with, we need to follow what the society has for us at this point. So we cannot on our own do things, as society says, we are not going to ask for a proof of vaccination, so we cannot ask for proof of vaccination at this point. My personal opinion, this is a personal opinion, is that this is not really a privacy issue. We have other things where we have more information that we get from people. The request that there is a vaccination. We do this for children to prove that they're vaccinated to go to schools. At least they used to be. So that stuff like this is, we should be allowed. We should be able to do a request for vaccinations without violating anything. It's not HIPAA, because we're not asking for personal information about a person and their medical conditions. We're asking for a proof of vaccination, which is not exactly the same thing. And it gets more complex from there. I think it would be prudent for us to do that. However, we're not going to do that until society changes its mind.
Well, once again, I apologize for throwing the 16-pound cannonball into the middle of the deep end of the pool, but it's something that since other kingdoms watch the show and they have they're marshaling their own arguments for and against, since your opinion I value very highly, and I wanted to know what you thought as Oliver, as opposed to the Earl Marshal, and also vice versa. And so I appreciate that, because I also feel the same. Since it isn't a HIPAA issue, it's more of a health and safety collective issue. But since we don't do that at the society level until the policy changes at the society level, that's something that we won't have to deal with. But I say that. I thank you very much for answering that question. And that is it. That is all of my tough questions, because I figured, you know what, let's just fire the fastball right now. So I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to answer those questions for me. I really appreciate all that the Earl Marshal is going to do for getting us back into the realm of normalcy. And I thank you so very much for all the work that you have done and are doing for Caid. And I thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a wonderful staff that works with me. I have 3 direct reports, all of my deputies, and everybody else from that point down in the kingdom. It's not just me. I'm just the red-faced person you see.
All right. So I'm sure there are plenty of points of discussion that are left on this, but I think for guidance to get us open on June 1st, I think we have a pretty good path forward. And again, things are going to be changing beyond our control, and we just have to react and keep things moving. Master Oliver, we've now come to the part of the show where we have a little fun with trivia. And Bjorn, what is the name of the game this week?
Master Oliver's game this week is The Dance of Death.
Oh my gosh, it sounds exciting. And it ties into Bardic War because it's dance. So it's a themed show. So what I have for you is I have different terms. And it's either a martial art form or it's a dance. So you have to tell me if it's a dance or a martial art form, because your office oversees all the martial art forms in this kingdom. So you should know this. I mean, this should be easy for you. Okay, so the first one is Sistema. Sistema. Is that a dance or a martial art form?
I've never heard that dance. I'm going to call it a martial art.
It is correct. It is a Russian martial arts form that focuses on controlling important parts of the body. I could name a few, but such as the neck, knees, elbows, waist, ankles, and shoulders, and one that's not listed. Okay, so that's 1 point. Let's try another one. How about Bakum? Bakum, is that a dance or a martial art?
I think that's a dance.
You think wrong. That is actually from Lima. It is a ruthless martial art that encourages you to disable and kill your opponent as quickly as possible. Now, if I'm in a fight, that would always be my goal, but I'm just saying. How about bachata? bachata, dance or martial art?
Dance.
You are correct. It originated in the Dominican Republic in the late 1950s. So
You're going for the obscure dances.
how about the stanky leg? Is that a dance or martial art form?
The what? The stinky leg?
The stanky leg. Is that a martial art or a dance?
I'm going to go with dance.
You are correct, although I'd like to fight the stinky leg because
I think he's done that.
Oh, hey, I'll wash my armor. How about Bokator? Bokator, is that a dance or a martial art?
Martial art.
You are correct. These is from Cambodia. That was founded about 1,700 years ago. So you should be familiar with it. Let's see. How about the Tinnikling? Tinnikling, is that a martial art or a dance? We're almost done.
That is a dance.
You are correct. It's a traditional Philippine dance. Bamboo poles on the ground and against each other.
So it's both.
So it's both. I was going to say, sounds kind of like Shania. How about Dombe? Dombe, last one. Dance or martial art?
Martial art.
You are correct. It is the ancient boxing tradition of Egypt. So you could box like an Egyptian.
I think Sharif did that.
Oh, nice. Who knows? So we have an update coming up. Countess Batista just sent me a note. So I need to thank you for your time. I know it's been a lot of work to get us to this point, and a lot of work lies ahead for you and your deputies all the way down the chain. I mean, yes. I know that it's not just you or the kingdom level deputies, but really it relies on just that regular warranted marshal even to follow the rules and keep us safe. So I want to thank you in advance for the work you've done and doing the work that lies ahead. So thank you. And if anything new comes up that we want to talk about, you're always welcome to come on the show.
Okay. Thank you again. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, thank you. And I want to see you dance the stinky leg is really what I want. So anyway.
when we get back, I'll come visit.
All right. I'll talk to you later. All right. Well, man, a lot of work. Do you know the stinky leg? Because I don't.
I know of it. I have heard that it is in fact a dance and an internet meme at the same time. But I confess that that dancing isn't really my forte. So
maybe it's a war point. You know what a war point is? It's a war point for Bardic War. Let's see what Countess Batista has for us now. I'm sure she's had some success. So let's bring her on and see what's going on.
Thanks, Laertes. Once again, I am Countess Batista, reporting live from Caid. I'm here for the first ever Bardic War. Now, I think that I am finally in the right location. Oh, my lady, are you here today for the Known World Bardic competition?
The Gnome World? Oh my God, where? I love gnomes.
Yeah, the Known World Bardic.
Gnome World. I mean, gnome. I mean, who doesn't love a good gnome, right? No. Oh, it's over that way?
No, Known World. KNOWN, singing. They do poetry.
Known World?
Yeah, it's a Bardic competition. It's a lot of fun.
Weirdo.
Back to you, Laertes.
Wow, that took an unexpected turn.
You know, I'm just going to say it. I've known her since she was like 5, I'm guessing, based upon her height. And a sad Batista is just so sad looking. Poor sad Batista. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing.
But she's not going to give up, I can guarantee. No. I know she's going to have at least one more update for us.
Happy Batistas are the best type of Batistas ever.
Now, speaking of Bardic War, who do we have on next?
We are very fortunate in that, and perhaps this is just this is another nail in that lid. But the general of Atlantia and part of the Eastern Atlantean Alliance is with us, and that would be Baroness Nezhka. And I mean, if this is just the general stepping in, going, "We have dropped the hammer, and now I'm going to drop it on live from Caid," I'm sorry if we're demoralizing our own alliance, but I'm just glad she's with us.
All right, well, let's bring her on. She's been very patient, and it's super late where she's at. So let's bring her on, and she'll be on here right about now. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Man, there's so much going on with Bardic War.
Oh, wow. Is there ever so many points, so many competitors, so many people who have just made tremendous efforts to put this event on. It's incredible.
Yeah, and we're going to get a little bit more detail on that here in a minute, but let's find out a little bit more about you. So you live over in Atlantia, correct?
I do, yes.
So whereabouts?
I'm in Ravens Cove in North Carolina. That's my barony, and so I've loved every minute of being there.
So where's Ravens Cove?
Jacksonville, North Carolina is where our main. We have 3 counties. We have Onslow, Duplin, and Lenoir counties in North Carolina.
Oh, Lenoir County, yeah. So
East Coast, close to the coast. We're think beach and just a little bit in.
Nice. So how long have you been in the SCA?
Only actually about 5 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I kind of jumped in with both feet, but the SCA has been family for me. My family doesn't live here. So I came not knowing anyone and found the SCA, and they are my family now. So I have just thoroughly enjoyed being a part of it.
So, well, when you first became aware of the SCA, was it the Bardic that drew you in, or what really kind of brought you in and got you started being involved?
Well, to be honest, I actually found out about being in the SCA. I was at an event for my mundane work, and I was in the truck with someone that I didn't know who said, "Hey, I've got to go to an event this weekend." And her friend said, "Oh, that's right. You've got that weird camping thing." And I said, "I have to know more about this." And so from there, I started dabbling in rapier, and then Bardic just sucked me in, and I have not been able to let go. I absolutely love the Bardic arts. Every single thing, poetry, storytelling, singing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, nothing like the term weird camping event to get your interest, right?
I know, right? I mean, who doesn't want to go to that weird medieval camping thing? I mean, it's fantastic.
So, do you prefer? What's your preferred form? Is it singing, spoken word? What do you really is the one that really gets you?
Actually, there's the two that get me. I love singing, but I also love storytelling. Both of those. I'm being sucked into poetry a little bit more. There are amazing poets out there that have opened that world, but for me, singing and storytelling are the highlights of what I enjoy doing the most.
That was the opportunity for you to say, I prefer to really dance the stanky leg. But
no, I think I'll wait for Master Oliver to do that for us.
Well, we'll have an instructional video.
I would pay money to see that.
Now, did you have to fight it out with other members of your Bardic community in Atlantia to be general? Was there espionage and intrigue, or?
No, actually, I'm actually one of 2 generals. Our other general is Sir Hawken, but we are the royal bards, and so their majesties just came to us and said, congratulations, in addition to the Royal Bardic competition that you've won, you are now our generals for the Bardic War. So that was kind of how that went down, which we're both very honored to do that, and we're both very excited to be here because there's been a lot of fun and a lot of shenanigans in addition to the amazing performances that have been going on in the arts. So I'm always up. Bards are always up for shenanigans.
Right. And and speaking of Bardic War, and performances and stuff, I understand you have 2 performances you're going to do for us this evening.
I do. And speaking of Bardic War, this first one I wrote because I'm sorry, we had to have an answer to the charges that Midrealm was laying. So this is to the Midrealm. Bear witness, all ye who sit here and listen to our songs and tales. We have grievance with Midrealm, who with cunning schemes and bards assail. Though invited guests were we to their event, and asked to share our bardic souls. When we had offered up our art and talent, they in jealousy thought us all to hold for ransom, so that Atlantean voice in song would forever be silent, forever be cold. But Atlanteans aren't held long. Bards of wit and cunning, we all know how to fight with sword as well as with pen, and unable to keep any held. Atlanteans returned to hearth and home, enraged and seeking to condemn these of Midrealm, these oath breakers, whom hospitality all scorn. Those who know naught of nobility, who slight and insult upon us, will not be born. Midrealm, listen well. This is your last chance to escape this self-served hell. We now make ready our bards, prepare to take you down in royal battle in word warfare. You believe yourselves equipped, your battles won, but I urge you, you know nothing of Atlantia's might, so run. Now, while you still have the chance, before around you Atlantean bards in victory dance, before your words fall flat, before your songs like piles of scat on boots we scrape from our minds. For our words will craft the weapons wherein we will win the day, and you'll have naught left, have naught to say, save this, that this kingdom against which great insult you have wrought, have now the best, most mighty bardic warriors ever wrought.
Very nice. Very. You know, I have a suggestion for the title of that piece if you don't have one yet.
Please.
Yeah, you can just call it "Suck It, Midrealm."
I like that one.
There you go. I'm sure there's a period translation.
I'm sure.
And you have a second piece you're going to perform for this evening too.
I do. My second piece is a little bit better, but not better, but just more fun, period style. This is Ravenscroft's We Be Soldiers 3, which is one of my absolute favorites that I always identify with because as Scadians, we're without a penny of money after all of the stuff that we deal with and put towards our hobbies. So this is one of my favorites from Ravenscroft.
Awesome. The floor is yours.
We be soldiers 3, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, lately come forth from the low country, with never a penny of money. Here, good fellow, I'll sing you a song, sing for the brave and sing for the strong, to all those living and those who are gone, with never a penny of money. We be soldiers 3, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, lately come forth from the low country, with never a penny of money. Here, good fellow, I drink to thee, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, to all good fellows wherever they be, with never a penny of money. We be soldiers 3, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, lately come forth from the low country, with never a penny of money. He that will not pledge me this, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, to pays for the shot, whatever it is, with never a penny of money. We be soldiers 3, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, lately come forth from the low country, with never a penny of money. We be soldiers 3, Pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie, lately come forth from the low country. And it never ceases to amaze me that we've never a penny of money.
Very nice. Very uplifting. Keeps me going.
Thank you.
I can see why y'all are ahead. Let's bring in Bjorn right quick. Hey, Bjorn.
It was very well done, Your Excellency, both.
Thank you.
I enjoy singing a bit and also poetry, and so it was quite lovely to see two different formats on display. And just as multifaceted as you are, I can definitely see why the Eastern Alliance is doing as well as they are.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much.
And I appreciate you dealing with our tomfoolery throughout the day.
Bards love tomfoolery. I mean, that's part of why we're here.
Right. And giving me the opportunity to upset yet another kingdom. Hey, it's a good day for me.
Always. Hey, just remember, if you bring it, we'll bring it right back.
It looks like we have another update from Countess Batista. So I'm going to let you go. Thank you for staying around. I know it's late on the East Coast. Pleasure to meet you, as always.
Thank you so much for having me and for all that you guys are doing. We really appreciate it.
Well, and continued success to your forces, kind of. So have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Well, it looks like Batista has one more report for us. We'll see how this turned out. I think it's for the best, actually. So
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, here she comes.
Thanks, Laertes. Once again, this is Countess Batista, live from Caid, whatever. You know what? I can't find this stupid thing. I think I'm done. I think I'm done for the day. You know, I'm sorry, but I'm just no, thank you. Anyways, this is Batista reporting live from Caid for the first ever known world Bardic competition.
I love gnomes!
Yay! I love gnomes too. How about you?
I question that fella's sanity. I mean, I've seen Batista with a blade, so I'm just saying.
So, well, yeah, I'm glad we have our in-the-field correspondent now. So, as a matter of fact, she'll be making more appearances on our show as the kingdom opens up, opportunities to look at practices and events that are happening around the kingdom. So,
I'm very excited about that.
So,
because I mean, I know that Her Excellency can be a bit of a wallflower, but I'm sure that she will endeavor to give us the news that's fit to see on this program.
Okay, sure. Anyway, so what do we have coming up next week? Well, we're going to have a great guest. I just can't announce it at this time. But again, let's take a little bit further look ahead. For Memorial Day, we will not be having a live show, although we do have a special episode that we're going to stream, and it just won't be live. And then the week after that, that very first Monday of June, again, we will have the Royal Majesties of Caid, along with the Kingdom Seneschal and the Kingdom Exchequer, to talk about the reopening of the kingdom, what lies ahead, and any changes and guidance that may have been received between now and at that time. For Bardic performances, what do we have coming up, Bjorn?
Well, we're really fortunate in that so many bards, dozens of performers have been getting involved in the Bardic War. And since various kingdoms are in a state of when they're opening, when they're not opening, what they're doing, they have seen the performers that have been on our show and they're like, well, I'd kind of like to be a part of that. So it's an embarrassment of riches. We're going to be very fortunate here in the next little while in that we have so many performers who are like, okay, now that I've wet my chops with the whole online virtual performing thing, now perhaps I can do it again. And so we're really excited to see who's going to be on next. But thank you very much, Bardic War, for opening the eyes of so many performers across the known world to go, oh, this is an avenue that we can do, and we will reap the wonderful riches of it.
Right, and we will have a recap of the outcome of Bardic War on next Monday night's show, completing our service as the official variety show of the Bardic War. All right, well, my friend, I wish you continued healing. Thank you so much for being here this evening. It's so good to see you.
My pleasure to be here. I'm glad I made it, and I'm glad that they only kept me for one night of observation, and just it wasn't much to observe. It was me being woken up every hour to take a sleeping pill.
That doesn't make sense. Anyway, well, thank you very much. I will see you next week. And everyone here, please join us again next week when once again we will be live from Caid. We'll see you then. Good night.
Bye, everybody.